Good morning. We are on 61a near the top at the Mishnah. Elu tunos tenufa ve'ein tunos hagasha. So there are menachos that require waving but not being brought to the mizbeach. And they are log shel shaman mitzara, the log shaman shel mitzara, the oil of the carbon, the mincha of a mitzara, of a someone who recovered from saras, v'ashamo, and also his asham offering comes with a mincha, v'abikurim, kidu Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, and bikurim, the first fruits that are brought on Shavuos, come with a mincha according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, ve'emurei shalmei yachid, the innards of a shlamim of an individual come with a mincha. I'm sorry, they come with a mincha, but they need tenufa, and not. Sorry, I've been saying this wrong. I think not these are not specifically munachos. These are things that require tenufa and not hagasha. The waving and not being brought. So the oil of the mitzara had the asham sacrifice of the mitzara, the bikurim, and emurei shalmayachi, the innards of the shlamim of an individual, v'chazav v'shak shalahan, and their breast and thigh. These all require snufa nahagasha, echad anashim v'echad nashim, whether it is brought by a male or female. B'Yisrael v'lo ba'acherim. However, it applies only to these items that are brought by Jews and not by non-Jews.
And how is this the Menachot? I missed that.
No, sorry, this is not. I'm sorry, I stopped at the beginning. So
you said that fast, so I didn't quite. You
Yes,
said that when you so I didn't capture what you said before. But yeah, they are Menachot, not Menachot.
No, they're not. They're not. I misstated that at first. We're kind of tangentially. We spoke about menachos that need one thing and not the other, but these are not the menachos themselves that we're talking about that require tnufa and not hagasha, but these are these actual sacrifices. Sorry to confuse things.
Is there a connection? Okay. Is there a connection to menachos here?
Well, we've been talking about we talked about menachos that need one aspect and not the other. So I guess it's a tangent on that. And shtei lechem shnei ksifsei atzeres, also the shtei lechem and the two the lambs of Shavuos. So let's see. What's the procedure? Nosin shtei lechem al gavi shnei kvasim. So you have the shtei lechem. It's a two-part carbon. There's the two lambs and the shtei lechem, the loaves that are baked as a mincha. So in this case, it is partly a mincha. So you put the loaves on top of the lambs, and under all that, under the lamb, you put your hands under the lamb and lift it. You back forward and backwards, up and down. Shenamar asher hunaf v'asher huram. Because referring to a carbon that says which was waved and lifted. Okay, so the waving is back and forth, and the lifting is up and down. And where did you do this? The waving you did in the east side of the Azara, and the Hagasha, where you bring it to the Mizbeach, is in the west side. Snufa is called Mosla Hagashas, and you do tenufa, you do the waving before the hagasha. Now, minchas haomer, minchas kanos, tu'unos hagasha tenufa. Now we're switching back to menachos, the mincha of the carbon haomer and the mincha of the sota. They require both hagasha and tenufa, bringing it to the mizbeach and waving. Lechem apanim minchas nusachim. The bread for the table and the mincha that came along with other karbanos, so the carbon sibur, within the sachim. No waving is required, and no bringing to the mizbeach is required.
I wanted to just maybe it's a tangential question, but it's puzzled me anytime we learn this. Now, the people have to lift this lamb and wave the lamb. Now, this lamb
is pretty strong, right?
Well, yeah. No, I mean, Ravwani has to be strong. The question is, Does this lamb object? I mean, the lamb could fight with him too. And secondly, is he allowed to use an assistant? Does he have to do it by himself? And suppose he's a small person, it's a big lamb. What actually happened?
I've been wondering the same thing. To the best of my knowledge, and I don't have that much knowledge, I don't think the Gemara discusses that, but maybe we'll find out different. But yes, it's a very good question. A lamb can be heavy, and some people are not maybe not able to lift it, and and also you got to balance the loaves of bread of matzah or bread on it. Like, how does that work, right? How does it not fall off? Beats me. It sounds like a very challenging procedure. So I appreciate the question, and I don't know if the Gemara discusses that or not.
Uh-huh. All right.
This seems to be taken at face value, but maybe we'll find out different. I don't know. It gives us something to look for as we proceed. Um, okay, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Shlosha minin tu'unin shalosh mitzvos. There are three types of karbanos that need three mitzvahs, three like Um, details. Two, shtayim b'chol achas v'yachas, u'shlishish ein bahen. So two mitzvahs on each of them, on each type of karban, and the third, not. In other words, each of these karbanos needs two out of these three, but not necessarily the same two. Okay, it's stated kind of awkwardly, but basically there's three categories of karbanos, and there's three things that you do with karbanos. Each karban has two of those things done with it. So let's see how that plays out. Anyway, zivchei shami yachid v'zivchei shami tzibor v'asha mitzara. These are the three categories: the individual shlamim, the communal shlamim, and the asham of a mitzara. So what are the three things and which two are done to which? Zivchei shalmit yachid, an individual shlamim, tuna smicha chayim utnufa shrutin. It needs to have one thing we haven't mentioned yet is smicha, that you have to lay your hands on the carbon. The owner or the person who brings the carbon has to lay his hands on the carbon while it's still alive. And then after it's slaughtered, after the shechita is done, you have to do the waving. Ve'ein behen tnufa chaim. But the shlamim of an individual, they don't need to be waved while they're alive. Okay? Zivchei shalom tzibur, communal shlamim, tunim tnufa chaim ushchutin. You wave them twice when they're alive, and then after the shechita. Ve'ein b'hem smicha, but there's no laying of hands, presumably because there's no individual owner to do smicha. It's a communal carbon. V'asham mitzara, the carbon asham of a mitzara, ton smicha u'tnufa chai. You do have to lay your hands on it, and then you do the waving while it's still alive. Ve'ein bo tnufa shachut, but after the shechita, there's no waving. Okay. Got all that? Good. Tanya Rabbanan. V'hikri v'osel la'asham v'eslog hashaman v'heni fosam tenufa. So we're talking about the Mitzorah. Uh, he brings a carbon asham and a jug of oil. V'heni fosam tenufa, and you wave them. Malamin shetunin tenufa keachad. So this tells you that the waving has to be at once, like they're waved together. Much like I mentioned about the lamb, the shtei alechem, the lamb and the bread. So here it's the mitzvah, it's the asham offering and the oil. Have to have the wave done together. Uminayim shimheni v'zebi yasma v'zebi yasma yasa. But is that really necessary? Like, what if you did the waving of each one separately? That still works. Talmud Lomar, because the Torah says v'yikrivo soli asham v'henif. It's two phrases like v'hikri voslo le'asham. It's a valid asham. It's a carbon asham. V'henif, and you wave it. So it's um, uh, so one second. You're also asham. I think. Um, so yeah, so Yacha Yonif v'Yachzer Yonif. Maybe you should do it two separate things, like wave them together, and then also wave each separately. Talmud Lomar Tnufa v'lo Tnufos. No, there's just one waving, not many wavings. So one waving means that they have to be done. They should be done together. Lifnei Hashem.
So they put the oil on top of the or they what is this, the animal?
Yeah, it doesn't specify on top,
So,
but presumably, yeah, that's presumably how it's done.
so the oil's in a container, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
and
In a
how do
jar.
they prevent it from spilling? I guess it's covered, right?
Yeah, good question. It's like my question before. How do they prevent the bread from falling off the lamb?
But
Beats
even
me.
if it's in a container and you're waving the oil in a container, how does the oil not fall off and break and spill and
Great question. Again, it's
or
very
does he lift the
mysterious how
animal with
this
one
actually took
hand
place.
and the oil with the second hand?
Yeah, but that sounds even harder to do the waving of an animal with one hand. You really got to be strong for that, right?
Well, there are people arm wrestle with one hand, right?
Yeah, but what about the average person? I mean, I don't know the answer to all these things. It's kind of mysterious how this all actually played out in reality. As I said, maybe we'll find out more. Now, Lifnei Hashem, so the Tznufa Lifnei Hashem, the pasuk continues before God. That means B'Mizrach. Um, means in the east. But V'ha'amar Lifnei Hashem Yachal B'Marav. But we have another brisa which says that Lifnei Hashem, you might think that's in the west side. So, and then proceeds to explain why Lifnei Hashem in that case is not the west side. But so why are you assuming here that Lifnei Hashem is the east side? Amrei. So my answer is honey milay mincha, dikrei chatos, v'chatos tuna yisod. Okay, so the the idea that lifnei Hashem refers to the west, or might refer to the west, uh, that that one is specifically talking about the mincha, which is called a chatas, right? That's a minchas chote. For chatas tuna yisod, and since it's a chatas, it needs to be the blood of this carbon has to be poured on the base. Right now, the base of the mizbeach didn't go all the way around the base was like a protuberant, something that protruded from the bottom of the mizbeach on the floor, okay, on the floor level. But that piece that protruded didn't go all the way around the mizbeach. Um, um, so the Karen
It's like a
Duramas
ledge.
Mizrachis lo haya yisod, and the southeastern corner did not have a yisod. Aval hacha lifnei Hashem krinabe. So in that case, when you say lifnei Hashem, it has to be as close to Lifnei Hashem. So in other words, Lifnei Hashem really means the Mizrach in the east side. But if the Chatas needed a Yisod, so in the case of the Chatas, then that brisa assumed that maybe Lifnei Hashem, the best you can do is in the west because because you need a Yisod. But here with the Mincha, you don't need any Yisod. So Lifnei Hashem typically means on the east because that's closer to I guess the Heichal. Um, okay. Vabikurim, the Mishnah went on to say that Bikurim require what? Tanufa and Nahagasha, or what was it? Was it both? I forget already. Bikurim.
Leipzig Orchestra and put that for classical new front QXR 105.9 FM HD Newark.
Okay, somebody's got some background noise there.
WNYC and HD.
Somebody's got some background noise.
I'm Tim Spritz. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, Nufa and Nahagasha.
Okay. An opera by Armando.
Hang on a second. Stan, I think that's you.
This great big march by Edward Elgar.
Let's see if I can mute Stan.
Yeah, that is me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
close that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Um, okay, Bikurim. So Bikurim we saw needed Tanufa non hagasha kediva Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. My Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Where do we see this statement? Tanya, remember I said the lakach hakohen. Talking about the bikurim, the kohen takes the basket from your hand. He takes so limit al bikurim shetzunin tanufa. So the taking is understood by Dibur Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov as the taking is understood as waving. My Talmud Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Why does he say that? Gomer yad yad mishlamim, because lakacha kohen hatena miyadecha. He takes it specifically from your hand, and you know where else it says hand. Siv hachav lakacha kohen hatena miyadecha. But it says he takes the basket from your hand. Siv hasam yadav tiviena es Hashem. When it talks about karbanos, it also uses the word hand. You bring it by hand. So the carbon needs tenufa. So he understands that bikurim also needs tenufa. Makan kohen afla kohen, and not only that, but it's a kohen has to do it. O mahan balim afkan balim, but also the owner has to do it, right? Like in the case of the bikurim, it says the kohen does it. In the case of the carbon, in the case of the carbon, yadav to Vienna, it's referring to the person who brings the carbon. So, which is it, the coin or the owner? Okay, son. So the coin participates also. So you, the bringer of the carbon, put your hands under the animal. The coin puts his hands under yours, and together you lift it. So maybe this kind of starts to answer our question. Well, maybe it's a little lighter if two people are working on it. Okay, but still the whole balance thing seems, still a little trouble, a little difficult. Anyway,
Well, this is bikurim. This is not the animal, the sheep.
no, but it applies to both. What applies to one applies to the other, and vice versa. So what we're saying is, in the case of both bikurim and the asham, both the kohen and the owner participate in the waving. So now the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda also agrees with this. Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda, v'hinachto. Go back to the bikurim. You place the basket before God, as it were. Zutnufa. That means placing it is the waving. What makes you think it's tnufa? It says you place it, you put it down. It doesn't say anything about waving. Why do you interpret that as waving? So, because when it says he puts it down before God. So we know he puts it down. Another time it says and he puts it down. So by saying it twice, it means there's a waving. Amarava. Um, so, like, why do we say? So, if Rabbi Yehuda also says that the Bikurim need waving, so why did our Mishnah say Kedivir Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Apparently, it's also the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Omer, Amar Ravo, Hol Pasuk V'Ach Kasuv Tchila, because Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov's proof text comes first, and Rabbi Yehuda's proof text comes second in the Torah. So that's why the Tana seems like a little weak answer. Like, why would you ascribe this just to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov because he has a different or an earlier proof text? But that's Rava's view. Hmm. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Omer Amar. Rav Nachman says, why does the Mishnah ascribe this view just to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and leave out Rabbi Yehuda? Hoel v'Rav Guvrei. Because he's stronger. He's a bigger Talmud Chacham than Rabbi Yehuda. So we're ascribing it to him to let people know that this is a real, this is the prevailing view. Not to exclude Rabbi Yehuda, but to give it the authority of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Okay, so we said Emurei Shalmi Yachid v'Chazav Shalahen.
We were talking. When it says Rabbi Yehuda, that's not Yehuda Nasi, is it?
I think it's it must be it's a Tana for sure. I don't know. I'm not very good at that and knowing who's who.
No, I'm only asking because to think who would be a greater Talmud Chacham, Yehuda Nasi was the premier, right? I mean, he collated the Mishnayot. You would think he would be maybe, if not one of the top Talmud Chachamim, maybe the top Talmud Chacham. That's why I think it's probably not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi.
Could be. Okay, it's I have no arguments. I just don't know if it's the case, but it makes sense. Okay, so the Mishnah went on Ve'muri Shalmi Yachid, the inners of an individual shlamim, v'chazav shakshel, and their breast and thigh. Echad hanashim v'echad hanashim, men or belonging to men or women. B'Yisrael v'lo b'acherim, but Jews, but doesn't apply to non-Jews. My kamar. So. Um, so the Gemara's understanding of B'Yisrael v'lo b'acherim, it doesn't understand it as Jews and non-Jews. It understands it as Yisrael as male Jews, and acherim are non-male, right? Like everybody else. So everybody else means women not, right? So it's contradictory. Um, Rav Yehuda says this is what it means. Echad nashim v'echad nashim, karbanan ton tenufa, utnufa atzma whether. So I was incorrect about non-Jews. I think I misstated that. But here's how Rabbi Yehuda explains it. Echad anashim v'echad nashim karbanan ton tenufa. Whether men or women, their carbon requires tenufa. Tenufa atzma, but the actual waving, the physical act of waving, the carbon of anybody needs waving. B'Yisrael of lo b'dei nashim, but the actual waving has to be done by a male Jew. Okay, so. Now we continue. Tana Rabbanan, Bnei Yisrael Menifin, Ve'en Hagoyim Menifin. Now here we have a specific statement that the Bnei Yisrael, which we're going to understand as males, Jews, do tlufa ve'en hagoyim menifin, but not non-Jews. Bnei Yisrael menifin ve'en hanashim menifos. So we also understand it to be males and not females. Amar Yossi, matzinu shechilek hakasuv ben karban Yisrael lekarban goyim lekarban nashim bismicha. We see that the Torah makes a distinction between a carbon of a Jew and a carbon of a non-Jew, and also a carbon of women. They all have different rules regarding smicha. Bismicha yachol nachlok b'tnufa. Should we also say the same differences apply to waving? So. Regarding smicha, it's only done by male Jews, not by non-Jews, and not by women. So should we say the same thing about snufa? Lo, he says no. Malil chilek b'smicha, shasmicha bebalim. Now, the reason, the determining feature about smicha is that the smicha is done by the owner. Can only be done by the owner. So since neither non-Jews nor women. I think it's because they can't come into the Azara, so therefore they can't do it themselves. So that's how you know that smicha doesn't apply to non-Jews and to women. So then
The women can do smicha. We learned that before.
Um,
In other Gemara, that women can do smicha on the animal. In Besachim, elsewhere, where else we learned it? I had a question whether the woman can be the owner of the or can she not be the owner of the animal?
Yeah, sure, because women have to bring karbanos.
Right, she can be the owner,
Um,
but they can definitely do smicha on the animal. Whether they can waive it, that's another story.
well, I sense I recall also that you're right, but that's I don't. Is there a Rashi? I don't have my Gemara with me, so I'm looking at the Gemara online. I don't have Rashi in front of me. Is there a Rashi on it?
נשים ואחד נשים והדר קטני אבל לא באחרים דמשמע נשים ולא נשים. That refers to what? ממאי כמה רישא קטני אחד נשים ואחד אנשים והדר, and we learned again קטני קטני, והדר קטני, אבל לא באחרים, דמשמע אנשים ולא נשים. So it's just referring to anashim. I don't know. I'm not sure I understand that. That anashim below nashim, but why does it say b'acher? Oh, the acherim means it's anashim below nashim. Okay, that's one Rashi. I don't know if there's another one. Reisha Ketan.
1 second.
I don't know. Kavano ta'an tenufa v'shel nashim meinif lahu.
So it's a machlokas Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, according to what I'm seeing here. Beis Shammai says women can't do smicha, and Beis Hillel says they can do it voluntarily.
Okay, that makes
But
sense. I
yeah,
remember that. But so they can, and I think we hold by like Beit Hillel.
right. It's machlokas Rishonim, right? Rambam holds like Beis Shammai, and the Tosfos and some other Rishonim hold like Beis Hillel. So this Mishnah reflects the idea that they cannot do, so the women cannot do smicha. Although I recall something like what you're saying, like you stand up. Maybe I'm thinking about a person who's Tame. That would make sense. That you stand outside and you reach in, but I don't remember the details. But yeah, it seems fairly clear, at least from this Mishnah, that or from this source, that women do not do smicha, and presumably because they cannot enter the Azara. So Nagmar says nachlok b'tnufa, but so should we also make a difference? So the fact is yes, we make that distinction with smicha. But what about tnufa? Shat tnufa b'kohanim. The kohanim do tnufa. Im came out on lomer b'nei Yisrael. If that's the case, why does it say that the Jewish people should do tnufa? B'nei Yisrael menifin vein agoyim menifin, because male Jews can do tnufa and not to the exclusion of non-Jews. B'nei Yisrael menifin vein anashim menifas, and also to the exclusion of women. So. No. So this is what it's saying. Since the Kohanim are the ones doing the tnufa, so like, what do you care? It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter that that it's the carbon of a non-Jew or a woman, right? The smicha has to be done by the owner. Okay, so then understand you exclude people who can't do smicha for these technical reasons. But snufa, since it's done anyway by the Kohen, maybe I would say that yeah, the carbon of a woman or of a non-Jew should require snufa because there's no barrier to doing snufa. So that's why the Mishnah is telling us that from the pasuk Bnei Yisrael, that really does actually exclude women and non-Jews. Tanya Yidach, we have a different Tana. Bnei Yisrael, Ein Liel Bnei Yisrael. Gerim v'avadim mishuchrarim minayin tamalo hamakriv. I would have thought to exclude uh, uh, converts and also freed slaves who became Jewish. So should they also be excluded? No, because Talmud Lomar Hamakriv, anyone, it's like an inclusive phrase. Whoever offers a carbon. So who is that including? Certainly not. We're not going to be so expansive as to include women and non-Jews, but we can include people who are like a ger. Now, why you wouldn't? Maybe it's like interpreting literally Bnei Yisrael, the sons of a Jew, right? Now, a ger is not the son of a Jew. He's fully Jewish, but he's not the son of a Jew. So, by saying Hamakriv, that tells you don't make that exclusion. You're going to include people who are eligible, but even if they're not originally Jewish. Okay. Maybe Hamakriv comes to include the Kohen and not these other people, not the Ger. Kishomer Yelav to Vienna, Hari Bali Mamor. No, because when it says he has to bring it with his own hands, so here we know from there that the owner has to do the tnufa. So how do you do it? The Kohen puts his hands under the hands of the owner and and do it that way. Okay, I think we'll stop right here. It was kind of in the middle of sugya, but it goes on for a while. And leave it um, to Ellie to pick up tomorrow. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you. See you next week.